Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to In Touch. Once again, Dr. John Nowicki is with us. Nowicki Chiropractic and Wellness and a whole lot of education.
Yes, and in
Good
fact,
to see you.
yeah, this coming weekend I'm heading out to L.A. To have a seminar at the Rose Bowl, and actually in the press box at the Rose Bowl. It's on concussions, and we've got a world-class expert that's putting it on out there, along with a trainer from the East Coast that brings people in from all over the world on concussion rehab, and it's going to be on the protocols that they use. And in fact, this guy was one of 10 authors that did a peer-reviewed literature review and peer review published article that was 40 pages long on everything that helps with concussions. And the interesting thing is, with concussions, it fits totally within my philosophy and scope of practice: drug-free and surgery-free. Don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for drugs and surgery, but concussions aren't one of them.
Yeah.
They're not one of them.
Yeah.
And what this guy is going to go over, all the things backed up by the literature that benefit people that have been in concussions. Okay, in other words, that have passed the studies, passed the peer review panels, and they're all, whatever they talk about at the seminar, we're going to be able to bring in and help benefit the local community. Not only with people that have had concussions, but concussion screening to give us a baseline is really important. So your children, if your children are playing soccer, they're playing basketball, volleyball, football, there's so many ways to get concussions. And if they haven't had one, it's important to know what the baseline is. So if they do get a concussion, that we can say, well, let's bring them back to the baseline. Where were they at before this incident? When their head hit the floor, when their head hit the pavement, when their head hit the turf. Okay, and then we were talking earlier about Dale Earnhardt. He's a classic one that when this concussion issue showed up with the NFL, they looked at Mike Webster, and the guess, and this was according to what was on the movie Concussion with the doctor played by Will Smith. In the movie, they stated that the pathologist guessed that Mike Webster, who was from northern Wisconsin, had taken 70,000 hits to his head from playing pee-wee football all the way up to the end of his career.
Yeah.
Not every one of those would be a hit that we would say, in fact, a majority wouldn't have been a hit that would have been classified by anybody as a concussion, even by today's standards. But just like Dale Earnhardt right now, who's out, okay, it's the repetitive jogs, jolts, and impacts that the head takes. See, here's the deal. Your brain has a consistency of butter. So when you take, let's say you're playing racquetball and you smack into the wall with your shoulder. Well, your head stopped before it hit the wall, all right? And you say, well, I couldn't have gotten a concussion, but I ended up with a headache and I got some foggy thinking going on. Well, that's because the brain still hit something. You see, your brain is separated. This soft, butter-like substance that the brain is separated from your skull. A hard object, we got some rocking and rolling going on behind us or something, and that hard object is the skull, and it's separated by a thin layer of water-like substance, the cerebral spinal fluid. All right, so the brain keeps going after your shoulder hits the wall, and your head stops, the skull stops, but the brain then pushes through the water and smacks into the skull. All right, so while your head didn't hit something hard, your brain hit something hard called the skull. And that's what's going on with Earnhardt right now, is that they're guessing that he's had just multiple jostles and hits and impacts from rough tracks, from bumping into other vehicles, whatever, and it's just his brain being jostled around that's cumulative. And that's exactly the diagnosis that they came up with in the workup that led to the NFL issue and this movie called Concussion. They called it CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is swelling of the brain from continual micro trauma to major trauma. All right? And it caused degeneration of the brain tissue, the cells themselves, the connections, the cell membranes, and so forth. And with your children, what we want to do is give them a chance to, A, understand it early on, if they start having any symptoms from repeated head trauma.
Yeah, sure.
Develop that baseline so that you have the information as to whether you want to let them back in for play and what path you want to take, because knowledge is power.
Do you think that some of the diagnoses of migraines could be this?
Well, it certainly could be. Concussions come in so many shapes and forms as far as the symptoms. I had 2 patients come in. One slipped and fell on a parking lot with the last slippery day of the year that we had, and another one was in a car accident. The guy was going about 10. He only estimated 10 to 20 miles an hour on a back dirt road heading home, and he just kind of dozed off a bit and hit a tree. Well, they both came in with a main complaint of altered personality. The lady that slipped and fell, she was upset that she just couldn't complete a task anymore. She just didn't have the energy that she used to have. The other one came in, and during the consultation, we always set targets and goals from what people can expect from our care. And we ask him, what is this preventing you from doing? And his wife just interrupted and said, I want my husband back.
Yeah.
He's not the same guy. He's not happy and jolly anymore. He was this happy, jolly guy. She says, now he's this ornery guy. And he just bowed his head, and I thought he was going to start crying because that's not what he wanted to be known as.
Sure.
So, one of the things we look for in concussions with children is, have your children have any changes in personality with the hits they've been taking? That's a biggie. They're not the happy-go-lucky child. They're angrier. They're more subdued. My sister got a concussion this winter. She was going under through an area marked, don't ski through here. And of course my sister said, I can do that, because somebody did it ahead of her. And what she did was she skied under one of those T-bars. And she says, I was looking down at the T-bars coming up. And she says, duh, they're also coming down. And she said, I missed the one coming down. And,
wow.
T-bars weigh 30, 40 pounds. They're solid steel. And they're going at, 5-6 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a hammer blow to the head is what she took. And luckily, my sister used to ski without a helmet on, and she just loves her big hair flowing in the wind as she skis down the hill. But somehow we talked her into wearing a helmet recently, and she was wearing it. I think she might have had a skull fracture otherwise, and maybe a hematoma leading to something really serious like no more sister without that helmet. But with the helmet, I think it was 4 weeks later, she called me up and said, John, I've got these killer headaches. I'm like crying all the time. I can't take the pain anymore. I went to the medical doctor. He told me, take some pain pills. She says, nothing's helping. I told her to get on up. And we did some things that I'm already working with on concussions and got some great results. But, in her case, she cleared up without this additional information I'm getting this weekend. But if you had hits,
could it only be temporary?
Well, I don't know. That's something I'm finding out this weekend.
Well, this is good in the sense that
but
you're able to have your sister involved in this.
Yeah, what I'm trying to get at is there's so many different ways to get them. Slips and falls on ice, car accidents, hits in the head from T-bars. I've had them from snowboarding and catching my heels and rat trapping myself to the ground. I've been in 4 major car accidents in the last 20 years since I've been up here. It's like I got a target on my car. And I had concussion symptoms after each one. And frankly, I know that I'm going to get information from the seminar that I'm going to apply to myself. I'm going to do everything that they talk about. I'm going to be the number one patient in this game. It's not totally altruistic that I'm heading to the seminar. I've got post-concussion syndrome. I've got the chronic traumatic encephalopathy myself to some degree, and I want to make sure I give myself every opportunity to recover from that. So who's going to benefit from this? Not only myself, but anybody out there that's played any kind of sports where they've conked their head, like football, like wrestling where you might have been slammed to the floor repeatedly, like soccer where you're heading the ball, or you're bumping your head into somebody else's head, smacking them. If you watched the Euro Cup recently, it was in the final, I think it was, between France and Portugal. There were 2 guys that went up and hit their heads. It was a colored guy and a Portuguese guy. So it was a French versus the Portuguese, and they were both on the field in the 4-point position, 5-point really, with their heads, on the ground resting. And I was watching pretty close. I think they left both of them go right back to play, and they were both concussed. So, those guys are going to have problems later on in life. And they both ran the risk of a second concussion following the first one.
Right.
That can involve total shutdown of the brain, death.
Yeah.
All right, you're messing with the brain on this. So new concussions, we can take care of those. But it's also the guys and gals out there that have chronic neck stiffness, headaches, altered personalities. They're just not happy with life.
Yeah.
Things going on that just aren't good with them. They know something's not right, and they're a perfect candidate for what we're going to be able to do for them starting next week, which will be the second to last week of it'll be the last week of July. This summer's going by so fast I can't keep up with it.
I know.
Yeah. So, and this will be playing perfectly. This will be in August, and we'll have this nailed in, and it's going to be absolute gold for everybody out there. So, Dale Earnhardt, if you're listening, give me a call next week. We'll have the latest, greatest information to help you recover quicker. We don't want you to end up like so many Steelers, which they killed themselves.
Yeah.
Webster did. Dave Duerson, I think he was the players rep for the NFL that really was anti-concussion and anti all this concussion stuff that came out initially. And then he ends up shooting himself and leaving a note saying, "Use my brain for science."
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. So, again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. We got football season coming up, Pee-wee football, you name it. Those hits start young. If you want to give your child the best chance of not ending up like Mike Webster, give us a call, 779-1300.
They were trying to develop something that would take the place of the knowledge of what damage is being done. They'd put inside a helmet or what have you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Nothing took its place.
Yeah, there's no helmet. There's no. You're dealing with such a delicate structure, the brain,
Right.
and the forces. Just let's be honest. We didn't evolve or be designed to bang our heads against each other going 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
A running back versus a defensive back. A center in football that takes hits to the head and body on every single play.
Right.
Again, it doesn't have to be a hit directly to the head. It's those jostles that send vibration up to the brain and shake the head, and the brain ultimately that smacks against the inside of the skull. So you got to take care of it. You got to give it the right care to have the best chance of recovery and not be a problem later on in life.
For those who may be going through this concern right now, I know if they talked with you, they would have a better chance of a total understanding of what's going on with them.
Yeah, and here's the deal.
Yeah.
It's talking, one of the big things that keeps people away from care coming in is cost. And in my clinic, the first visit is always no charge, provided you bring in a 20 to donate to one of our local charities that we're working with. Right now it happens to be the school supply drive, so it's only 20. I mean, gosh, isn't your brain and your health, your family, your marriage worth 20? To come on in and see if those headaches are something related to a concussion, something that we can help and help you recover from? I mean, it's only 20.
That's right.
Give us a call, 779-1300.
And you can enjoy this the rest of your life.
Yeah, turn it around. You don't want to end up at the wrong end of a barrel.
Yeah.
Like so many of these guys in that concussion video. Watch the concussion video. If you're watching it and you think in any way you're like one of them and you're heading that way, you got to give us a call. Hey, you got to give us a call. We get amazing results already. And after this weekend coming up in the Rose Bowl and the press box, they're going to be even better. We're going to have the odds in your favor.
That's right.
Okay.
Let's tell everyone where you are located, Sean.
Yeah, we're right next to the Arby's exit by Home Depot. So convenient.
Yeah.
The number is 779-1300. And, the first visit, x-rays, exam, and there's specific exam tests you do for concussion that test your balance and so forth that's affected. it's only 20. Aren't you worth 20?
You bet.
Yeah. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
John.
me.
Dr. John Nowicki with us. Nowicki Chiropractic and Wellness. On In Touch for In Touch, I'm Aaron Harper.